Happy holidays, Fright Night friends,
Happy holidays, everybody.
and welcome to our bonus holiday episode, which hopefully, if you're listening, you know that the holidays are here. The season of the jolly is upon us, and we're all just looking forward to celebrating whatever it is we celebrate, and hopefully getting some presents along the way, enjoying some snow, or in Hawaii, dreaming about snow, like Sam and I are.
Melekilikimaka,
Anyway,
as we say here in Hawaii.
that's the thing you say.
Yeah.
On a bright Hawaiian Christmas
Christmas
day.
Day. There we go. Yeah.
They should make a song like that. They should make a song about that.
Yeah, we should.
So for those of you that aren't tracking, we're only a couple weeks out from season 2, coming at the beginning of 2024. But in the meantime, to pass the time while you're waiting, Sam and I got nestled up in front of our imaginary fireplaces to watch a Christmassy horror movie. So strap on your red suspenders, jump in your sleigh, fill your bag with gifts, because we're going to talk about Rare Exports, A Christmas Tale.
This is Scary Movie Fright Night,
a podcast about two guys who just watch scary movies. I'm Chris, and I love scary movies.
And I'm Sam, and I hate scary movies. My body just showed, give me heebie-jeebies. No, don't. All you have to do is stay inside in your bed, and then you won't get murdered. Okay. Now you have that recorded. Yeah, I feel like people don't think about Christmas time or the holidays, whatever holiday you celebrate, as a time for scary movies. And as someone who doesn't love scary movies, I typically don't either. But I would challenge that because this one that we watched was actually, I had a good time. And there was a lot of good options out there. There was others that we didn't choose for this episode that we could go back and watch next holiday season. But what did you think about Rare Exports?
It's funny. For someone that does love horror movies, if in case anyone hasn't figured that out about me at this point, somehow I've never tapped into holiday horror movies. Like, there's a billion out there, and a lot of them are probably really horrible. But there's, just not too long ago was Halloween, and I get into the spooky season.
Yeah.
We did the episode on Halloween, and I love it. And like the trick-or-treaters and the costumes and the decoration, and I love spooky season. So I don't know why I've never wanted to bring a little spooky into my stocking, and be able to hope that like some sort of like spooky creature comes out from underneath the Christmas tree. I'm trying to make a bunch of like metaphors and jokes. It's not really landing, but you get the point. This movie it delivered. I thought it was pretty good overall.
You thought it was pretty good? It gets great reviews. It had a really high Rotten Tomatoes score.
It did. Well, I guess we should probably recap it for the folks. I can't imagine that there are that many people that were like, "Oh man, I'm so glad they're breaking down this movie. It's one of my personal favorites." But maybe there are people out. Maybe
kind of niche.
Maybe we're just late to the Rare Exports train.
Maybe. Also, it was all in Finnish, which I didn't realize until we watched it.
There was some English. There was a little bit of English.
Right, sure.
But yeah,
mostly Finnish. It's a Finnish movie.
And like literally, like I felt because I didn't understand the language that it left the movie unfinished for me.
Okay.
Anyway,
I think it
Sam,
was.
Do you want to go ahead?
Let me tell you about the movie.
With this podcast.
So so the movie came out in 2010, although later I've got some trivia for you about the precursor to this movie, but we'll get there. So all of the crew and cast are Finnish, so I'm going to do my best to pronounce these names, but I don't speak Finnish, so I'm probably going to get some of these wrong. But the director was Jalmari Helander. Okay, he also wrote it along with Juuso Helander, Petri Jokiranta. Does this Finnish have like hard J's or soft J's? I feel like now is the time to ask that question.
I didn't finish my research on that.
Oh gosh, how many times are we going to make Finnish jokes? Okay, the stars of the cast were Jorma Tomila, Ani Tomila, who are father and son in real life and in the movie, Peter Jacobi. Anyway, IMDb gave it a 6.6 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes gave it an 89%, 70% audience
89.
score.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell us, for those who didn't watch it, give us the rundown of the movie.
Yeah, let me tell you, this is a joyful tale, and this is what it's about. The movie opens, and a team of scientists are excavating something mysterious in the Corva Tunturi Mountains. They discover a large tomb filled with what appears to be ancient remains, but the specifics of the discovery remain a secret, although the American man in charge seems to know what they're digging for. Meanwhile, in a nearby town, a young boy named Pietari, something like that, is curious about Christmas and Santa Claus. He begins researching the real Santa Claus in some pretty gruesome books that apparently he already owned, and stumbles upon legends that suggest Santa is not a jolly gift giver we're familiar with, but rather a dark, supernatural being who punishes the naughty. Pietari and his father, along with some other friends, find hundreds of reindeer that have been brutally slaughtered, killing all their income for the season. Pietari becomes convinced that the excavation in the mountains has somehow awakened the real Santa, and he starts preparing for a potential threat. On the morning of Christmas Eve, a wolf trap built by his father has seemingly killed a skinny, naked old man with a long white beard. Pietari and his father also learn that the potato sacks, heaters, and hair dryers have gone missing from all the houses in the area. Pietari and his father realize the old man is still alive and confront him with a couple of other people, and then a transmission comes over a radio by the American person who funded the digging of Santa Claus, and they arrange a trade-off. When they arrive at the trade-off, we soon learn that the man in captivity is not actually Santa Claus, but just one of his many, many naked old white helpers. Pietari finds the real Santa Claus frozen in ice in a large hangar, surrounded by sacks full of children and all the stolen heaters, which the little elf helpers were trying to use to thaw out Santa. All we see of Santa is his giant protruding horns coming out of the ice as he defrosts. Honestly, a little disappointing. I wish we would have seen him. Anyway, Pietari, who is actually the real genius of this entire movie, comes up with a master plan to both lure away hundreds of Santa's helpers so that his dad and friends can blow up Santa Claus before he defrosts. One of the men jump into a helicopter and use a little bit of Christmas magic to become an expert helipilot, lifts up a net with all the children, and lures the helpers away to the forest. Meanwhile, Pietari's father and friends rig Santa Claus up with all the dynamite and blow him into a million pieces. And in that very moment, the elf helpers, Santa old men that are naked, are left without a job and suddenly become unaggressive and give up. In a scheme to recoup the money lost by the death of all the reindeer, we then see a montage of the men and Pietari training the bearded Santa helpers to be kind to children and care for them, training them to be Santa Clauses themselves. The last thing we see is all the new Santa Clauses being loaded into crates and shipped off to various locations in the most weird, twisted Santa Claus human trafficking money-making scheme the world has ever seen. Words that I never thought I would say ever. Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night. The end.
The end. My favorite part of this, it is a little human trafficking, isn't it? They're like, we've captured all these Santas and we'll ship them.
And they're like training them how to be
Santa.
And then they approve of them and they ship them away. Yeah.
My favorite part is when they are first putting together this like plot of like, oh, we've captured what they think is Santa Claus, and they're like, what do you think we can get for him? I'm like, are you selling him into slavery? What? And they're like, how much do you think we could get for this Santa? And they're like, $85,000.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait,
yeah.
you've captured the one and only, 500-year-old legendary figure who you cannot sell because he's a human being, but you put the price at $85,000. I was like,
well, that's how. I mean, that's because that's how much they lost on the reindeer. So they just,
Oh, did they say that at one point?
Yeah,
okay,
they did.
So I have a confession. When I was watching this movie,
you fell asleep.
Well, okay, so I was like, it's a Christmas movie. I'm getting ready for some self scare. I'm gonna like get all cozy and like lay down and get my blanket and close the curtain, turn off all the lights. And I think it was just like it did. This movie wasn't very suspenseful, right? I don't think I ever had like an adrenaline spike. I don't remember there being any jump scare. I wasn't like on the edge of my seat, like what's gonna happen? And also it was all in Finnish, so I was like reading and listening. But I think at some point, a couple times, I never blackout slept, but a couple times, think I was like, wait, what just happened? Do you know what I mean? Like,
so you were like Pietari looking out the window, keeping guard, and just kind of dozed off.
Yeah, basically. I remember, that was a jump scare, right? When he what was it? Something hit the window? What
There was something. What was it?
there
Yeah,
was
it was a real
something.
memorable one, obviously.
And actually that actually did make me jump because I was probably
Yeah,
dosing and then something happened.
probably because you were half asleep.
He
Yeah,
like
yeah.
he like
Okay,
falls over.
so
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, so to recap for you, when they find all the reindeer dead, that somehow apparently that's their annual thing of like they get all the reindeer and I think they sell all the horns of the reindeer and that's how they make their
Oh.
money, maybe for the year, for the season. I don't really know.
Okay.
But they did the count and it was 85,000. And so that's
Okay.
where they came up with that number on the back end.
Got it. They're like, we just want to be
Um,
compensated. I was like,
right.
what? How did they choose $85,000? Like, if you're going to be
Yeah.
criminals, you might
But
as well
also,
go for like multi-million. But anyway,
yeah, but he was a very unassuming, like, oh, this is just because he like bit someone's ear off. They're like, oh, he's really important. Let's get 85. Yeah, that was a little bit.
it's
I don't know
fine
how they
though.
actually thought they were gonna get that. Yeah,
That wasn't really the
yeah.
point of the
So
movie. Like, I didn't get bogged down for this one, and because I wasn't scared, I didn't get bogged down in trying to like point out all the plot holes. I was like, this is
true, true,
just a
true.
silly, scary Christmas movie.
Yep, yeah. So what were so tell me your thoughts from I love Christmas, I hate
Yeah,
scary movies. Like what were your what was your
was
take on
my
the
hot
movie?
take.
I have, some interesting points. There's not a lot of trivia. It sounds like you have a little bit. This isn't one where we're going to go into super in-depth analysis,
Yeah,
but I'm curious to see what you thought when at the points that you were awake at least.
yeah. I didn't miss any major plot points. I was just I
Okay.
thought as I was watching it, I was like, I might have missed some dialogue. So if there was important, like if this were Midsommar and where in Midsommar
Ooh,
it's like you blink and you miss a significant like symbol or something, like
right.
then I would have been like, oh god, let me rewind. But this one I was like, oh, it's fine. I might have missed a few sentences here or there. I thought it was
Yep.
like I thought it was really silly. I thought, but I
Yeah.
also kind of I think I liked it because it was different. Like it was like a totally different take on Santa Claus. It wasn't necessarily
Yeah.
super thought provoking, but when I
Right, right,
started
right.
reading about like various traditions related to Christmas and the winter season, I
Mhm.
started learning a lot. So the fact that it prompted learning more about that, I was like, oh, I actually got a little bit something out of this. It was like a different take on Christmas and the idea of Santa Claus. I was like, the kid was great. The kid was so brave. I liked his like really dramatic, like, I'm not coming back, when he like jumps off the
Yeah.
helicopter. And
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
just,
It was like action movie. The kid did it for me.
I love
He
that
was the
kid was the
genius.
hero. Yeah.
He was the hero. He knew what was going on from the beginning.
Yeah.
He like he was keeping watch. Like one of my favorite things that he was doing is he was like sitting, even though like he's still a kid, right? So he's keeping watch. He's in like that full armor with the cardboard taped to his butt, so he couldn't get like the lashings like he saw in the book, right? From the tree branches.
Oh.
Yeah, and so he's sitting there all armored up. He had his keys rigged in his hand, to like drop in the bowl to wake him up, but then it caught onto the yarn of his sweater and unraveled, so it didn't wake him up. Like, but he had like set
Mm.
almost like a little alarm, so if he fell asleep, he would drop his keys, it would hit the bowl and wake him up. But he failed every time. The first time we meet him, he's asleep on that same thing, like, and his dad's calling
That
him, and
was
he's like
me.
running around in his underwear. And then he's like keeping watch again, and he just fails at it because he's like trying to be a tough kid. But then he figured it all out.
Yeah.
No one wanted to listen.
Yeah.
And then he's like, "Hey, like download like in your brain like the Matrix, how to fly a helo."
Yeah.
And then like you said at the end, he's just like, "I'm not coming back," and he dives back. And
Yeah,
then yeah,
slow
it was
motion.
it was
I mean, I love how like all the dads they seemed like dorky neighborhood dads who were I mean,
yeah,
they were burly, they're these like they're living out in rural Finland
yeah,
farming reindeer or whatever they do, but like they didn't they were like they were trying to save the day, but they didn't have
right,
it's almost like the magic of being young and on Christmas and believing in Santa Claus as we all do because he's
yeah,
real.
yeah,
But it was like the
duh,
kid is the one. He had the like the innocence and like the imagination
hmm,
in order to figure out what was going on. And he was the one
yeah,
calling the shots, right? When he
yep,
was like he
yep,
shot the gun and he was like, "Listen to me." They all turned around and he was like, "This is what we need to do." And I was like, "Yeah, you tell him. I like that. I thought it was fun.
I agree. Yeah. Yeah, he was the best part of the movie by far.
Yeah.
Um, and even at the end, I think wasn't it basically he, like, was doing the math for, like, how much they could sell them all by trafficking all the
Yeah.
Santa Clauses around the world.
Yeah.
Uh,
The dad, like, whispered in his ear, "Can you multiply 85,000 by whatever, 200?" And
yeah.
yeah, that was pretty funny.
Oh, well, and even the part where he decides to finally, like, admit to his dad that he was the reason that there was the hole in the fence once he realized all the kids in the neighborhood were gone,
Oh,
and
yeah.
he brings the stick out to his dad. He's like, "I've been bad. You just need to beat me. Like, I just need to tell you that I've done the wrong thing."
Yeah.
Um,
It's very
which I
courageous.
actually thought so to, go a little analytical on the movie, I the biggest disappointment of the movie for me probably was that we didn't actually see Santa Claus. We didn't actually get to see the big horned creature.
Right.
And so, like, I thought going in, as I'm subconsciously predicting what's gonna happen in the movie, I thought because he was the only kid that wasn't bad, like his friend was kind of a dick. And so I thought something about like him being more pure, he wasn't gonna be a target and it was gonna give him some
Mm,
sort of advantage. So I guess the movie definitely provided a surprise on that front where, you know, that didn't even play into it. Um, but I will say I kind of wish we'd seen the Santa
the
creature.
creature. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was assuming that it was going to come out of the ice and that there would be
Yep.
some sort of
Same.
battle. But yeah, they just kept it simple. They just kept it straightforward. They're like, we're just gonna saw off his horns and we're gonna blow
Yeah.
him up
And
and
they're
there'll
gonna
be a
sell
big
them. Yeah.
explosion. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's actually funny on that note. This is kind of random. So obviously I did the recap, and generally speaking, when I do the recap, a little behind the curtain, like it's Wizard of Oz. I go
Mhm.
to like IMDb or something. I find a full synopsis and then cut it down, right? Uh, well, this time I was like, well, this movie's been out since 2010. I'm gonna use my friend over at Chat GPT to go ahead and write me a
Oh.
synopsis. It failed me
Oh.
miserably,
Oh.
but what's funny about it is it failed me twice because it gave me a synopsis and I was like, okay, cool, this works. And I started cutting it down. But then the story changed and I was like, that's not right. So I told ChatGPT, I said,
Like ChatGPT
you're
gave you a
incorrect.
story that was not what actually happened in the
That
movie?
part of it, right. And so then, and I'll tell you about what it said. But then I said, you're actually incorrect and inaccurate. Please try again. And it said, oh, sorry for the inaccurate. I think I still have it here. I apologize for any inaccuracies in my previous response. Here's a more accurate and detailed movie recap for rare exports at Christmas sale. And so it's
Hmm.
very similar. It talks about dark fantasy, the mountains, the excavation. It goes into that. But then halfway it kind of shifts. And then it talks about at one point, Santa being unleashed, a harrowing chase ensues. Santa begins to pursue all the children, causing chaos and destruction. The group manages to trap him in a deep pit where he's incapacitated. Then they overcome him
Interesting.
with a massive tarp, and then they plan to sell him to the highest bidder worldwide. And then the film concludes with Pietari discovering a large sack of presents at the excavation site, realizing that Santa had been abducting and freezing children for centuries, leaving only their ears as evidence. In a twist, he and his
Ugh.
father decide to revive frozen children, blah, 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 blah. And it's
Whoa.
basically like, that's the end. But I'm like, what version of the movie or is this a book? I did a quick look and I was
Yeah.
like, is there another version? Maybe it's a book, maybe it's a story.
Hmm.
But it definitely did not. I was like, this is not the movie.
Or maybe it's just the
Um,
nature of generative AI where it's taking elements from the actual plot, but then creating creating new stuff.
maybe. Well, what was interesting though is that when I had it redo the story was basically the same.
As the
Yeah,
first
but
one it
anyway,
gave you, or as the movie?
yeah, as the first one it gave me. It basically
Weird.
gave me the same story a second time. Again, maybe there's a book or maybe there's something else out there. I didn't specify a
Hmm.
movie from 2010. Maybe that's my own fault. It's
Well,
user error.
when I was trying to research the movie, I did discover, and this it took me a second to figure this out. I was very confused.
Yeah.
But if you look on IMDb, there is this movie, which is Rare Exports: A Christmas Story, or something like that. But then there is just something called Rare Exports Inc. And this is like a
Okay.
7-minute short movie that was released in 2003, I think. So this was
Okay.
like 7 or so years before this movie came out. Now, it's the same thing. It's the people who created this movie made this
Right.
short film first.
Oh, so it's the same people. Okay,
Yes,
okay, okay.
yes, and
That makes more sense.
it's kind of like so you know how Ted Lasso was inspired by a commercial? Your light just went out.
Oh no, I just lost all my Christmas spirit. For those of you watching on Spotify or YouTube, wherever you're watching, one of my lights just died because
Your
the
Christmas spirit
holidays
is
are
gone.
gone. Yeah.
Well, let's see
Santa
if I
gave me
can
coal and
maybe I can rejuvenate your Christmas spirit with more fun
okay,
facts
let's go.
about Christmas. Well, okay. So we were talking about the short film that they released
Hmm.
previously. I was telling you, okay, so Ted Lasso, the TV show, was inspired by a commercial, and the commercial was originally just that. It was just a commercial. It was just a
Right.
concept they had for this character, and they were like, what if there was an American who got hired to be a football coach, but he thought it was American football, but it was actually European football, whatever. And then
Yeah.
they took that concept and turned it to a whole show. Well, I think that's what happened here because they created this short film, and the premise of the short film is that there's a group of hunters, and the first like half of the film, they're just setting up the fact that these hunters are like highly trained, very skilled, very precise. They have these techniques that have been passed down generation to generation, and they're hunting in rural Finland, and they've found their prey, and they're like looking at each other like, oh, we found this very rare thing that we're out to hunt, this 300-year
Hmm.
old specimen. And then lo and behold, they shoot the shot, and then we find out it's a Father Christmas,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they don't hit him with a bullet; they hit him with like a little, like a poison dart or whatever, like a blow dart kind of thing.
Tranquilizer. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, tranquilizer. So then they take him, and it's funny, right? It starts off serious, and then after they've hit him, and there's this like old naked man laying on the ground, and they like poke him with their boot. Like it's clear that like this
Yeah.
is a spoof. So they
Right.
take him, they bring him to a warehouse, and then they train him on how to be a Santa Claus, just like in the movie. So they give him like the doll that looks like a child, and it's the doll, it's like sitting on your lap, and they're like, here's how you interact with the thing, and he gets it wrong. He like tries to bite the doll, and oh, but your Christmas spirits are really back now because your lights are
I know
flashing for those who are watching.
you're reviving it.
Yes, it's working. Okay. So he like bites the
I
doll,
believe.
and
I believe.
they like smack him. They're like, no, that's not right. And so whatever. Whenever he finally passes his training, they put like a Santa Claus hat on him. They put him
Hmm.
into a wooden crate, just like in the movie. They seal up the crate. They like staple
With the same
gun,
emblem, right? Yeah.
same emblem. Yeah, they like staple gun the shipping label or whatever onto the crate, and then it closes kind of like an advertisement, like rare
Yeah.
exports, get your Santa Claus. So like that was the premise. I think it was like
Hmm.
a spoof video,
Right.
and then somewhere along the line they were like, let's turn this into a
Let's make a
whole
movie.
movie. Yeah.
So my question for you is is this an untapped resource? Should we be going and finding Santa Clauses
Spoofs.
to
Oh,
ship out?
Santa
No, that's
Clauses.
actually
Go Santa
yeah.
Claus hunting.
Yeah, Santa Claus hunting. Also, this is unrelated, but is it human trafficking if Santa Claus is actually like a demon? Like if his helpers aren't human? Or is it like elf trafficking? Which then gets into Harry Potter universe and house elves being slaves.
Oh, either way, it's trafficking, and
should they
it's
have all just given them a bunch of socks at the end so that they could be free
freedom.
elves? Probably.
Yeah.
And then my final question, again unrelated, but this was actually my first question. Why do we think, in your expert opinion, since you've done a lot of deep research
Yes.
into Finnish legend, the legend of Father Christmas, and how they live in the woods and they get hunted by people and exported to shopping malls around the world, and then learn to speak great English and bring joy
Okay.
to
What is the question?
people.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, question. So what was the purpose of the random American guy that was digging, trying to unearth this legendary being? Why?
Why? Why was
What
there an
were you
American guy?
going for? Or like
My
in general?
my
What did they
hypo-
want with
my hypothesis, because they also made
Mhm.
that little comment about like it's not your Coca-Cola Santa. Remember that?
Yeah. Yeah. It's
So
Pepsi.
backstory or additional context to explain this hypothesis.
Okay.
Finland claims the home of Santa Claus. So if you
Right, right.
Google when we were preparing for this episode and you read the synopsis and you said
Mhm.
this takes place in Lapland, and we were like,
Yep.
Lapland, like Santa Claus is Lapland? What is Lapland?
Yeah.
Well, if
Yeah.
you Google Lapland, Finland, the first thing that pops up is that it is the home of Santa Claus. Lapland is an entire region in Finland, but
Yep.
it's they're like they've made it a thing. They've made it like their shtick. I think,
Yeah.
and I want to tell you more about like Finnish folklore and other things,
Mhm.
but that
Okay.
this is kind of like a nod, maybe a stab at the Americanism, the Americanizing of Santa Claus, because the
Okay.
concept of, let me just pause here and say, if you have young children in the car and you're listening to this podcast and you don't want to spoil, no spoilers, maybe now
Yeah.
would be a good time to pause it. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean,
everybody?
or maybe 30 minutes ago when we talked about how Santa punishes and like boils and like beats children in a
Yeah,
demonic
that's
way.
true. At this
Yeah,
point, we've been
maybe.
talking about human trafficking. If your kids are still listening, like I think you have other problems to worry about. Anyway, um, so they might be the Father Christmas, like the concept of Santa Claus goes way back, like before the Jolly Red, like Coca-Cola version, right?
Mhm.
So even though the country of Finland like takes a lot of pride in the idea of Santa Claus and they've like claimed it and they
Yep.
have his address on their website and they're like you can come see the reindeer and meet the real Santa Claus and all of that. The
Mhm.
movie might be doing a little bit of like poking fun at like, yeah, that's the like corporate Coca-Cola American version of Santa Claus, and
Yeah.
this dumb American dude showed up and tried to dig him out, and didn't he get shot or he got the axe in the head or whatever? They killed him off,
Axe to
right?
the head. Yeah, yeah, yeah. He was
Yeah,
like the last one to die of the crew, but yeah, yeah.
he might have been just like a like you're just the dumb American who doesn't know anything about who Santa Claus really is. That's my
Yeah, so he was trying to
hypothesis.
like he was trying to take like the commercialization to like the next level. And like be like, well, let's unearth the real one and then we
Yeah.
use it for like for money making scheme, something, something. I mean, that's possible. He definitely seemed to know that there was something down there. But yeah, but that's an interesting hypothesis.
That's my hypothesis.
Hypothesis.
That the filmmakers were like, yeah, we're gonna like ditch this like Jolly Red. We're
Right.
gonna, kind of poke fun at the Americanizing of
Of
the Santa
old
Claus
Saint
lore.
Nick.
Old
Saint
Saint
Nicholas.
Nick.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Do you want to hear a little bit about the Christmas and Yule legendary figures?
As a matter of fact, I would love to.
Thank God. If you had said no, that would have been really awkward.
That's like my running joke though, is when you ask me if I want to hear about
Yeah, you
something, I
do.
say
Yeah.
no, and then you're like, oh, and then I'm saying,
Okay.
just kidding. I gotta mix it up. I gotta at least like sound
Keep me on
supportive.
my toes.
It's the holiday season. Of course I want to hear
Yeah,
whatever
you got
you
to be
want to talk to me
sweet on
about.
the holidays. You have to be
Yeah,
nice, not naughty.
that's true.
You have to be admirable, not impish.
Oh,
Anyway, so this so okay, the character in this movie that they refer
mhm.
to, and I don't know how to say this correctly, but it's Julupuki. I'm gonna
Yeah.
say it one more time. Julupuki. Okay.
Mhm.
Is not actually Santa Claus. This legendary figure is often
Mhm.
conflated with Santa Claus, but I'll come back to Santa. But
Okay.
Julupuki is a Finnish Christmas figure and was originally a pagan tradition.
Hmm.
Today, in some parts of Finland, the Julupuki is where people will perform in a goat costume in return for leftover Christmas food. I'm assuming this is like a fun thing
Interesting.
that people do, not
Okay.
like I'm homeless,
Right.
I'm gonna dress as a goat in order to get some food. I think it's probably like our like trick or treating, right? Like go put on a
Right.
costume
Right.
and we'll
Right.
give you candy. Okay.
Okay. Sure.
The performer who dresses up in the goat costume is traditionally an older man who is called a nutipuki.
Hmm.
I had to include that because that was a fun word. So julupuki is Finnish for Christmas goat or Yule goat. The julu is like
Yule goat.
Yule, and puki is goat.
Okay.
So
Was sorry. I'll
yeah,
ask this question when you're done.
no,
I'll
no,
I'll, I'll
jump
let
in.
you know. was Black Phillip a Yule goat or a Julupuki?
Maybe. He could have
Hmm,
been. Probably not
could have
though,
been.
because I don't think the
Oh,
Julapuki
because he was
is
like,
he was Satan.
oh, you're right. That was Satan. Okay, go
Yeah.
ahead. Sorry,
Okay.
sorry.
And I think the Christmas goat. Okay. So that is Julupuki. So it is, I think
Mhm.
it is the Yule goat, or it is a version of the Yule goat. But then I was like, wait, what is the Yule goat? So
Okay.
expanding on this, the Yule goat
Mhm,
is a broader thing. Julupuki is just Finnish specifically. The Yule goat is Scandinavian and Northern
mhm.
European, a symbol in Yule and Christmas traditions. It originates from Germanic paganism, and it has many variants throughout Scandinavian history. But I'm going to text you this right now because I found a photo to explain what this is. But there's and you might have seen this before, Christmas decorations or holiday decorations that are like little straw versions of a goat, and
Hmm.
that's what the Yule goat is. Here, hang on, let me text this to you. And I read a little bit about the Yule goat. I think it maybe sometimes bring gifts. Other times it scares children. I don't remember exactly. I don't think it's as baked or as like a thing as Santa Claus, but
Right.
there's just the Yule goat.
So it's interesting. So for I was gonna say for the listeners who can't see what's on my phone, which even the people watching this on a video can't see what's on my phone, but it's like a bunch of little sticks all like tied together,
Yeah, it's like a little
which
straw
almost
goat.
kind of yeah, straw goat. It almost reminds me of like the replacement children that were put in the children's beds
Replacement.
in the movie. Like when he went to find his friend and there was like
Oh,
that
oh,
straw child.
yeah,
So
yeah.
anyway, it was just kind of like oddly similar. Yeah.
Could be a connection. So, but if you Google Yule goat,
Mhm.
there's plenty of examples. I don't think it's not like a good thing or a bad. It's not like a the Yule goat. I don't think is like a demonic character, nor is it like necessarily a positive, happy character. I don't think it's much of a character.
Mhm.
I think it's just a symbol of that season. But when I was reading about the Yule goat, then I had the question: what is Yule?
Yeah.
Do you know
Yeah.
what Yule is? Because I was
Like
like,
Yule tides, like
yes,
Yule
like
tides.
Yuletide. But what
Yeah.
is
Yeah,
Yule?
which Yule tide, what is a Yule tide? Now words you say a word so many times that you like then the words start sounding weird. That's like from a TV show or
Yeah,
something.
no, there's the thing.
But now like it's like Yule tide, Yule tide,
Right, it's
Yule.
in the
Now it
song.
sounds weird.
Yeah, what's the
I
lyric?
don't know. It sounds like
Yule.
what is a Yule? Because what is it like when the tide brings in the Yule?
No,
Like,
no, no,
no, that's not it.
no, it's
I was
not.
also gonna say, and I was also gonna say like the Yule goat, and I was
Yes.
thinking, man, if we were in Finland, now that we're educated, um, like normally when you would travel, you have a look on your face like you know
I
where
just
this is
no, I'm
going.
just so curious where you're
Yeah.
going with this.
So bear with me for 10 and a half seconds. Like you know when you go to a new place
Yeah,
like in Midsommar, normally most of us wouldn't just go peeing on ancestral trees.
right.
We would be a little bit like reserved and be like, oh, what's the culture?
We do a
Like,
little
what are the
research.
things? Maybe we don't like, we feel uncomfortable going to different events because we're like, oh, I don't want to like be disrespectful. But now that we're educated about some of these Finnish traditions,
Yes.
if we were in Finland and they invited us to a celebration, well, I mean, I know if they invited you, then you'll go to it. You'll go to it. You'll go
I
to it.
would go to the celebration, and I would probably bring a Yule goat as a gift. Well, I feel
Oh,
like
perfect.
if we saw a Yule goat, well, if I didn't know what a
Mhm.
Yule goat was and I saw it, I'd be like, "Oh, look at that cute reindeer." But like, it's definitely not a reindeer, and every picture of the Yule goat looks the same. It has like the big curvy horns, just like Black Phillip,
Yeah.
and they're all made
Okay.
of straw. And there's like little tiny ornaments that but they'll also make like a giant Yule goat for like the town square or something. So like the Yule goat is a thing. It's a thing over there. And
Okay.
if we were to go, we would see
That's
it and we
cool.
would recognize it.
Yep.
It's Yule. It's cool.
Did you do that on purpose?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I did research what Yule is because I had to
Okay.
know. I was like, why are we
Right,
always
right.
singing about Yule? And like, what the fuck is Yule? Okay. So Yule is a winter festival historically observed
Okay.
by Germanic peoples that was incorporated into Christmas during the Christianization of the Germanic peoples. But
Hmm.
it basically represented like the winter season of festivals. And if you dig a little bit deeper, you're like, well, what is the holiday? Or like, when did it start? What are the dates? And I think it's a more generic, like, it's not like it started on December 15th and ended on the 20th. It's just the winter, the winter season of festivals,
Okay.
you know, the
Okay.
winter festival
Yeah.
time is what it
Right.
is. Yuletide was a old language version of Yule time. Like it's Yule time,
Oh, it's Yule time.
but it's yeah, but it was at the time it was a word that meant Yule time, but it was Yuletide, and then they decided to keep using it. So,
Mm,
you know, now we sing about Yuletide.
okay.
So now you know. Now you know.
Cool. Could you sing that? Can you sing the verse of that song about Yuletide? Because I can't remember how
What
it
is
goes.
this? What is the verse? Okay, now I have to Google it because I really want to know.
Dashing through the
No,
snow on
no.
a Yuletide's open sleigh. No.
There's okay, the history of Christmas is really fascinating, and we don't have time, nor do I actually have the knowledge of all the history of Christmas. But I needed to know that what the difference between Joulupuki and like Santa Claus was, and there's a lot of really interesting history around like like the culture of Christmas and the music of Christmas because some of our Christmas carols
Yeah.
probably go back, I don't know, 200
Oh
years
yeah.
or something.
Well, and that's some of the best part about all this is like we discover things we don't know, and I know that no matter what, you'll always figure it out.
That was good.
Okay, I'm done. I'm done. No more jokes.
Oh, hey, it's here. It is. It's the Christmas song. Chestnuts roasting on an open fire. Jack Frost nipping at your
Oh,
nose. Yuletide carols
he does
being
do that
sung by a choir,
by a
and
choir.
something else. But Jack Frost nipping at your nose. That's a whole
Yeah,
nother legend. We I don't even know anything
it
about.
is. Yeah, we don't have time for
We don't
that.
have time for that.
Yeah, maybe next Yule tide.
Next time will bring you up to speed on that one. Okay, but I did want to.
Cool.
Okay, so Julapuki, who is the version the legendary being in this movie,
Mhm.
is not
Right.
actually Santa Claus. It's the Yule
Got
goat,
it.
which is why it's the giant beast frozen in ice with the horns. Is because in
Okay.
this version of it, the goat, I guess, is probably like a being to be feared. Um,
Okay.
Now,
A big
Santa
goat.
is very much distinct from all of that. Santa Claus derives from Saint Nicholas, who was a
Right.
real person. He was a Greek bishop, a Christian bishop who lived during the fourth
Mhm.
century. So
Okay.
his persona evolved into Saint Nick, which evolved
Yep.
into Father Christmas and Santa Claus, so on and so forth.
Yep. And then when he became possessed by Black Phillip the goat, he then became Julapuki,
Julabuki.
and then this movie told the historic tale of what happened after that.
I only have one more thing, one more history lesson for you. Not
One
history
more.
lesson,
Okay.
but I was curious because the Yule goat, horns and
Mhm.
everything. I was like, well, what
Right.
is the Krampus? Because that was one of the other movies that we didn't
Ooh.
choose was Krampus. How
Yeah.
much do you know about Krampus?
I know some the things that I've forgotten, and I know there was a movie about it that we didn't watch, and I know that Dwight Schrute believes in
Oh
Krampus,
yeah,
and something about like it being a big hoof, like it's got hooves and horns, and that's. Go ahead and tell
that's.
me.
I
Go
mean,
ahead and tell me.
that's pretty much most of it. That's a great start. So
Oh, great.
Krampus is completely separate, has nothing to do with Julapuki or the Yule goat,
Right.
but totally different area too. So Krampus is a tradition from Central Europe, more like
Okay.
Alpine regions.
Right.
And the legend goes that Krampus assists Saint Nick or Santa Claus. He will go
Hmm.
with Santa Claus when he visits families. Santa Claus will give the gifts to the children who had behaved well, whereas
Right.
Krampus will terrorize the children who did not behave well.
That makes
So
sense.
and
Well
that
deserved.
legend, it's not just like you don't get the gifts if you have been naughty. It's like Krampus will come scare the living daylights out of you. There you go. Yeah. So here's my question for you. If you
Oh, I love questions.
have children one day, will you teach them
Mm.
the legend of Santa Claus, the legend of
Mm.
Krampus, the legend of
Mm.
the Yule Goat, or something else entirely?
The answer is yes.
All of it.
They will. Yeah, you need to teach them everything. Well-rounded, multicultural understanding of the world and of history and of black goats named Satan. They will be watching whatever the version of The Shining is when they are three. They're going to sit right down, sit right back, and you hear a tale of a fateful trip. That's the opening to Gilligan's Island. I just dated myself. Probably no one of the younger listeners even know what that is. But all that to be said, all of it. Yeah.
So you'll tell them if they're
And then I will start
naughty.
a podcast with them. And then they will just say random things, and I will just pretend that they're interested in what I have to say. Because by then you'll have moved on with your life and have cooler friends.
Maybe, maybe not. Maybe we'll
Wait a
be
minute,
doing.
wrong answer. Wrong answer.
Yeah.
There are no cooler friends, Sam.
I'm sure by the time you have kids, we'll still be doing Scary Movie Fright Night. Season
Okay,
15. Uh,
perfect. Yeah, I'll
actually,
be
that was
105. It's fine.
if I have children, I'm gonna be like, yeah, Krampus is coming for you. You little
That's you would
snakes.
do that, but guess what? Uncle Chris will tell them your daddy's crazy. So it's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. Um,
No, I think it's funny.
but anyway, I'm glad that we watched this movie. I'm glad that we took time to do it. I honestly wish that I could spend the Christmas season, holiday season, like watching some of these other movies. I just probably won't. But you never know. Maybe I'll fit one in. Maybe we can get together on like Christmas Day and be like, hey, let's watch Krampus.
Oh yeah.
And we might be able to get other people to watch it with us. Who knows? Who knows? But really, I think I kind of know the answer to this question. But like
Yeah.
scary meter, like -1,
Ugh.
like 0.5. I
Yeah.
mean, it's a bonus episode, so it doesn't really count.
Well, not everything has to be super scary. I would
That's
say
true.
on the scary scale, this one gets a big ol' lump of coal.
A big old lump of coal.
Yeah, it doesn't even
That's
get a
that's
number.
a good way. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Just as long as on our website or something, if you post a lump of coal next to it, just make sure it looks like coal and not like poop.
Dookie. Okay.
Yeah. What about Sam's stamp of
Well,
approval?
were
That's
there
my that's,
were
that's
there
my new going phrase for recommendations.
were there any moments where you did get scared?
No, I
No.
don't think so. I'm trying to think. Like it
There's
was a
no
little bit
gore.
eerie. It was a little bit eerie when the guy was trapped in there and you didn't know what was going to happen. He started sniffing when he smelled the kid, right?
Yeah.
Um, but even then, like, oh, I think that when he like came up and bit the guy's head, I think the way that they filmed it, I think that was a little bit of a jump scare. I think
Mm,
that was a little bit of a jump, like when the guy like leaned in and he got his face half bit off or his ear. I do think that that was okay, just like a little, just tiny, like
yeah.
um, but not really. No, it was pretty predictable. And just kind of sit right back and have a good time watching a little bit of ridiculousness. Yeah,
Yeah. I would concur. I was never really nervous. There was nothing like icky or gory. And I
yeah,
guess all the dead reindeer was a little like, oh, that's creepy, but I
yeah,
don't know.
yeah,
I honestly I think it was I maybe made it a little bit worse in my head. The concept of Santa Claus being not some jolly guy who
yeah,
is excited to bring you presents and spread joy, but instead he's this like creepy old naked dude is a
yeah.
little like it has an element of being disturbing,
That's true. That's true.
but
Um,
I don't know.
I guess if I wanted this movie, if I were redoing this movie, and because to be honest, right, we pick a holiday horror film, kind of thinking about this, from a bigger picture of the entirety of this journey that we're on. I think that I would have hoped that we would have watched something a little more bloody, like a little more
Oh.
just like horror film, and it probably would have had to be more campy because this was more like Finnish culture based, right, with a
Yeah.
little different perspective, which meant that it was less campiness and more just kind of like this Finnish tale of this story, with some ridiculous built in. Whereas I think that like what I actually thought would a holiday horror movie would be, and surely there are these movies out there,
Yeah.
is something just like way more
You're
bloody
looking for a
and like
slasher, like a holiday slasher.
maybe, or like just like the cabin in the woods
Hmm.
of holiday movies without the like outdated tropes, right? But but something like that where it's just over the top. At the end, everyone's covered in blood. Like we've had to kill all these elves that are evil, and they're just chasing after you.
Yeah.
And it turns out that Santa Claus, comes back from the dead to save the world from all of his elves that have taken over eating children. I don't know.
Yeah. That's right. No one
I just
really
made that
died
up.
in this movie except for the one American dude,
Yeah.
right? He was the only one.
Well, and all the people that were excavating, but you don't even see their death. You just see like hard hats flying. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
So no one really even died on screen. Oh yeah, you see the axe on in the dude's head, but
Yeah.
yeah, there wasn't even like almost no gore besides the reindeer. But
Yeah. It's like
they were already
really
dead.
none of the main characters who you're attached to.
Yeah.
Nobody dies.
But yeah, so it's worth a watch. Maybe watch
It
it
was fun.
once.
It was
I
cute.
probably won't rewatch it because there's a million other movies to watch. But
Yeah. It was
yeah,
silly.
well, should we wrap it up
Let's wrap it up.
like a Christmas present? I'm
And
a really
then
good Christmas
we'll
present
deliver
wrapper.
it and you can unwrap it and enjoy it.
Perfect. Everyone, make sure before you listen to this episode, and I understand it is not lost on me that you are now at the end of the episode. Just bear with me. Before you listen to this episode, wrap up your phone or whatever listening device in gift wrap and put a bow on it, and then unwrap it like a present because
Yourself.
this bonus episode is a gift to you.
Oh.
Yeah, so go back
Oh,
in time, wrap it up. Anyway.
maybe you can give a gift to us. Do you know what we want for Christmas? Do you know what I
Ooh,
want for
that'd be
Christmas?
good.
Or for the holidays?
I know what you want for Christmas.
What do I want?
A Freddy Krueger sweater.
No, no. We've established
Oh, I'm
this.
sorry. Oh, what? Okay, so I'm sorry. Tell
Freddy
them what
Krueger
you
has
want for
horrible
Christmas.
taste, and I know his sweater is red and green. I will never, ever wear it. It's
Yep.
hideous. Anyway, no, what I want for the holidays is a 5-star rating
Yes,
and a
that's
review.
me too.
Yeah, wherever you're listening, it always helps us to make more Scary Movie Fright Night when people are finding us when we're being discovered. So leave us a rating and a review. It's always fun to see a new one come in. And that would mean a lot. It would warm my
Yeah.
heart on this holiday season.
And if you're not tracking, I know I've mentioned it a couple times, but check out our YouTube channel. Season 2 is coming soon. We're going to talk about it in a minute. But season 2, we're going to have full video episodes on Spotify and on YouTube for you to view. You can just like have us in the background. You can pretend we're your friends and just pause it and talk to us. It's a little weird, but we're here for it. But full video episodes just like this one for all of season 2. So check us out. Subscribe YouTube, subscribe Spotify, subscribe everywhere where you listen to podcasts.
Chris,
It's going to be
I'm
fun.
really excited for season 2. I'm so pumped.
I would hope so because so am I. It's been so long. It's been, a few months, but it's been so long. We ended season 1.
Well, we've gotten a head start. We've started working on season 2 already.
We have.
And I'm just pumped because like season 1 was fun. It was like we're testing the water, we're like dipping our toes in this, in the world of podcasting. But like now we've got some like practice under our belts. And for season 2, we're like bringing some new things and trying some different things. And but I think the episodes that we've done so far were really fun to record. I think we've got some like good, meaty, juicy conversations. I'm just
Mhm.
really excited about it. I can't wait to start listening to season 2.
I think my favorite thing going into season 2, I think what makes it the most interesting is that like you already have a little bit of a foundation now.
Yeah.
So we really kind of ran the gamut in season 1 unintentionally because a lot of that is random, right? By how we select those movies. But we started out with
Now
a
I have a
solid one that
reference
gave us a
point.
lot to talk about. Exactly, you have a reference point. We kind of like hit all the not all the genres. Don't we're gonna hit some more themes this season that we did not hit last season, but you have something to base it off of to kind of say, well, how does this compare? How does this new one compare? Is this good? Is this bad? But by the end of this season, you'll basically be an expert, and I will quit the business, and you'll go find a brand new person that hates scary movies. Just kidding, that'll
Oh
never happen.
no. We
Yeah,
are
that'll never happen.
we're stuck together, tried and true, thick and thin. But I do
That's
feel
true.
like it's shifting away from like my old position was like avoid scary movies at all costs. My new position is
Right.
still like I would probably choose a Marvel movie over a scary movie, given the
Yeah.
choice if I'm alone and I want to pick something that I'm really into. But
Facts.
starting to embrace scary movies a little bit more and realize like, oh, there's a lot of good, meaningful, well-made movies out there, and there's no reason to just like dismiss the entire genre because I think that I don't like being scared. I kind of want to convince the scary movie haters out there to like give it more of a try, you know?
Yeah. Give it a listen. Check it out. Listen to Sam's stamp of approval. See what he thinks. We add the recap at the beginning, so you don't even need to watch the movie before you listen. You can just check it out. I know I've talked to a few people that do that they definitely they like using it as a, well, let me listen to this and see if it's something I kind of want to watch.
Yeah.
Which honestly, not every movie is going to be good. Some movies are good and Sam hates them anyway. So, no spoilers.
We do the work for you. We go watch it, and that way you don't have to watch everything. We'll do the work for you.
It's true. It's true. But instead, just watch us on YouTube or
Yeah,
Spotify. Like and
exactly.
subscribe. And watch the full videos. You should definitely watch this one because we are decked out in holiday attire. I got flashing lights behind me. Sam's got red and green lights behind him. He's got the glitteriest hat I've ever seen.
It can
I have the
change. Look at
tiniest.
this. It can change. I can make it all red. Let's see. Can you see that? It's like almost all
Yeah.
red. And then I
Yeah.
can go like this and make it green.
I'm actually pretty jealous of your hat. I just have like little baby reindeer ears with a tiny, tiny Santa hat on my head,
But it's
but it fits
cute.
well on my bald head. It actually looks like I have this hat attached to my head, but I don't.
Yeah, you look like
Um,
you Christmas reindeer. They have reindeers in
Christmas
Finland.
reindeer. Well, I guess we should go ahead and let people go. You and I are going to get off here.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have some eggnog, maybe some ham, some pepper jelly on some biscuits. I'm getting hungry when more I talk about it. Fright Night friends, thanks for joining us on today's special holiday episode where we broke down rare exports and learned a little bit about how all those, Santas made it to your shopping malls. Have a great holiday season. Have a happy, happy, happy new year. And we're going to see you back super soon with season 2 of Scary Movie Fright Night.
Happy holidays, everybody. Don't stop me now. Don't stop me now.
A good time, having a good time. I'm gonna eat some cheese. I'm gonna eat some gingerbread cookies. I don't know the words.
Not a holiday song. That's okay.
I forgot to ask you. I wanted to ask you how disappointed you were that there were a bunch of naked men running around and they
About
didn't
all
show
the
any of their
penises?
penises.
There was
Yeah,
a
but
lot
they
of
didn't really
elf
show the
dick.
penises.
Oh my god. Oh, I've got it. Magic Mike Santa Claus crossover. If you went to the North Pole and the North Pole was a gay strip club.
The North Pole is probably the name of the strip club.
Oh my god, you're right. That's so good.